Deion Sanders' callous, rule-abiding eradication of Colorado's football roster a sign of what's to come? Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Hope all is well. Please smash that like button for me. Please subscribe, hit the bell notification, comment below. All of that would be greatly appreciated. Now here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to read this article by CBS. They're going at Coach Prime really hard here, and they're hitting deep. This article goes deep, and I'm going to explain it in a second after I read it in its entirety. And then also let me know what you think about this article below. Now, Coach Prime, he's not new to the media. He also worked with the media. He's been in the NFL for many years, the major leagues for many years. He's used to the media, but I don't think he's prepared for this type of scrutiny that he's getting ready to go through. If he doesn't have a winning season, when I say winning season, if he don't win 8 to 10 games or better, and I know it's not fair because the team went 1-11 last year, and it's a lot to ask for to say he needs to have a winning season this year. But let me tell you something. If he don't have a winning season, they are going to drag him through the mud. The writing is already on the wall after I read this article, and you're going to know what I mean. They're going to drag his name, his integrity, his morality, well, his morals, whatever, through the mud. I'm telling you right now, and I hope he's prepared for it. Now check this out. It says Coach Prime says he has a plan, and CU seems plenty comfortable going along for the ride. Now let's get into this article. Go ahead and question Deion Sanders from a 35,000 foot view high above the Flatirons. Coach Prime mass flipping of Colorado's roster looks callous and reckless and wrong. Your feelings are valid. Sanders' methods are questionable. They might also be brilliant. We'll see. Both can be true. Now remember that statement right here, because I'm going to get back to that. When it says your feelings are valid, Sanders' methods are questionable. They might be brilliant. We'll see. Both can be true. Remember I said that. Well, I didn't say it, but remember I read that. That's not the discussion though. The player's freedom that's been established, what's at the heart of this issue, is not going away. It's just a matter of how it is implemented. Coaches can cut players. Coaches can be crass, cold-hearted, and rude doing it too. Now here they're quoting him. Those of you that don't run off, we're going to try to make you quit, Sanders told the new players upon arriving in December. You see how they're using his words against him, right? It sure seemed callous as 28 additional Buffaloes has entered the portal since the conclusion of Saturday's televised, highly attended, and widely viewed spring game. There are only about a dozen scholarship players remaining from Colorado's 2022 roster. The scholarship limit for football is 85. That's either a lot of room for growth or a cratering so deep it was last seen on the moon. It's undoubtedly a lot of players to run off in a short period of time, especially in an NCAA that is still supposed to be a teeny weeny bit about education. Remember I said that part as well. Well, excuse me, remember I read that part. I didn't say this, I'm just reading the article here. But remember that part as well. And while it is particularly difficult for the NCAA to legislate morality, who would have thought legislation would be needed to prevent a coach from turning over an entire roster? What about common decency? Remember, you heard that as well in this article. We're going to get back to that. Now get used to it because Coach Prime is not doing this alone. What's occurring this week is merely a variation on a theme. Though not nearly as drastic, Lincoln Riley turned over USC's roster in a similar fashion just one off-season ago. The transfer portal is only about 4.5 years old. The one-time transfer exemption will turn to 2 in August. Coach Prime's methods may only be the opening act. The NCAA isn't going backward on either the portal or the exemption for the same reasons the rules were changed in the first place. The risk of legal liability is too great. The NCAA will likely have gotten sued if it continued to restrict players with the indentured nature of the year-end residence bylaw. It absolutely will get sued if it tries to roll back the new existing freedoms. On your way to the House of Outrage, consider a 12-year-old bylaw that essentially allows first-year coaches to cut players as long as the athletes are allowed to keep their scholarships. That's exactly happened last year with the Trojans and Lincoln Riley flipping a large portion of his roster. Several players stayed despite being cut, choosing to give up football and continue receiving free education because it's USC. Quick question for the Colorado administration. Given CU's similar sterling academic reputation, how many Buffaloes are taking advantage of that same rule after being notified their services were no longer needed? The question that remains is how Sanders is transforming his lineup. We're reminded this week on the Pat McAfee show, the 41 Colorado players had entered the portal at the same time. Prime responded, "Is that all?" Now get out the way. Coach Prime continues to say he has a plan. "We already know what we got coming in," Sanders told McAfee. "Y'all just don't know what we got coming in. We already know what we got on the way, baby." They're probably at the airport right now. An improvement from 1-11, the worst record in Colorado history last season, to even 5-7 will be something close to a miracle at this point, even though it was through the lens of television. The Buffs looked small in their spring game. Special teams was a disaster. The schedule is already loaded with TCU, USC, UCLA, Oregon State, and Utah. The only winner at this point, perhaps, just Sanders himself. This looks more like a career detour than a vocation. He could get bored in 2 years and jump to another program or end up in the studio somewhere. In a sense, not much has changed. Deion Sanders, the brand, is bigger than whatever Prime is or will become. If Colorado administration didn't know that when it hooked up with this joyride, shame on them. Few other coaches could get away with this practice, and how many administrations would even allow it? As of right now, Sanders is being ballyhooed as mad genius manipulator with an audacious plan. Whether it works is a whole different discussion. Now, getting back to when they said your feelings are valid, Sanders' methods are questionable. They might be brilliant, we'll see. Both can be true. They're already questioning him getting rid of all these players, and they mention education and how many players are taking advantage of, because the rule has it where if he cuts you, you can still attend that school for free. And a lot of players at USC has done that when Lincoln Riley took over. See, they mentioned Lincoln Riley because he did turn over a roster, not as many as Coach Prime, but he did kind of similar, the same thing. But they're saying that he didn't do it to the degree of Coach Prime. But they said his flipping of Colorado's roster is callous, reckless, and wrong. Well, it's the rules. He can do that. He's a first-year coach coming in at Colorado. He can flip the whole roster if he want to. There's a bylaw. It says that, yes, he can cut a player, and that player can still continue to receive a free education or go somewhere else. And also, you got to remember, the players have freedom as well. And they're also getting an extra transfer. I think they can transfer twice, and it's coming up in August. So the players have a lot of freedom as well. They can go to another school. It wasn't like that back in the day. You had to transfer and sit out a year. So let's not forget that the players have options as well. And I want to know how many players on Colorado roster decided to go elsewhere on their own. Or, we don't know the full story. Maybe some decided to go on their own. Maybe some just quit, even though Coach Prime said he was going to make them quit. He was going to try to make them quit. And they're using that against him. They're making him to be out an evil villain. And then they mentioned that the teeny weeny bit about education. Listen, they are student athletes, but we know that it's all about winning in college football. If Coach Prime have too many losing seasons, he's going to get fired, and they're going to replace him and bring someone else in. That's the nature of the game. That's the nature of the NFL. That's how the NFL is. That's how the NCAA is. Football. If you don't win, you out. You could be out at any time. But Coach Prime wants to win now. He wants to bring in the personnel that he feels comfortable with and winning. And quite frankly, the team during that practice did look small. I mean, compared to other practices, spring practices I've seen so far, like TCU, USC, Alabama. I've seen quite a few spring practices this year. Florida. This team looked really small, man. I don't know if it's just the jerseys they got on or they're wearing black. I don't know. They just look really small. So he has a lot of work to do if he wants to win this year. And I mean, I'm not knocking him for letting people go and trying to bring what he thinks is quality talent. I don't see anything wrong with it. I mean, he's trying to turn over a team that won one game last year. Even if he did win 5 games, that is a success. But they're not going to treat it that way because it's Coach Prime and some of the things that he said. If he don't have a winning season, remember this, they're going to drag him through the mud this year. And the writing is on the wall because you're starting to hear little comments. You're starting to hear little articles that's being written on him. Yeah, the spotlight is on him, but remember, he's prime time. What say you? Drop a comment below. Let me know how you feel. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Guys, I'll see you in the next video. Peace.